I want to go across now to Claude Arpi, a renowned historian, one of the world's best-known Tibetologists, because remember, for one, we've had the Special Frontier Force deployed by India, made up of Tibetan soldiers. We had Xi Jinping, the Chinese president, in China, talking about greater assimilation of Tibetans with Chinese society and trying to end Spitism and separatism. So, Mr. Arpi, welcome. What's your reading of the current situation? Let's start with the use of the Special Frontier Forces. Give our viewers some historical context and the political-military significance of the Indian Army and the Indian Armed Forces deploying the SFF, hugely covert, under the radar, being deployed for an operation like this against the Chinese Army. What's your reading of the situation, sir?
The Special Frontier Force, which is known as Establishment 22, was created before the ceasefire in November of 1962 by the Intelligence Bureau. And these forces, the objective of the forces were to go back to Tibet. And that's why when the Tibetan leaders, along with Dalai Lama's brother, and Mr. Malik, the director of IB, decided to create that force. In a couple of weeks, they could recruit 5,000 or 6,000 Tibetans who were ready. Now, the year passed by, and the Tibetans never went to Tibet or never fought with the Chinese. They were involved in 1971 in the liberation of Bangladesh. 1 month before the main attack on Bangladesh, the Establishment 22 were already there, and they fought very well. They had 50 casualties. They were also involved in Kargil in the Turtuk sector, but the Tibetans never been involved directly with China. Of course, many of these young Tibetans have been serving on the frontier, but not directly. I mean, as you're aware that ITBP is the first force on the border, they were 20, 30 kilometers. So for the first time, the Tibetans have been used for a strategic operation, which was to get that ridge, which is opposite the fingers on the Pangong in the Spango Gap. So I think it's very important that they have been used. It's an important message for Mr. Xi Jinping, who last Friday and Saturday, there was a very important meeting in Beijing, and the entire Politburo, the entire Central Military Commission was there, and it was about Tibet. This type of meeting takes place every 5-10 years. So there was about 200-300 Chinese communist officials, and they decide for the future of the next 5 or 10 years. So apparently, Mr. Xi Jinping wants to assimilate Tibet. So at the same time, 2 days later, this operation took place in the Spango Gap, and the Tibetan soldiers were involved. So I think it's an important message that the Tibetans have always been traditionally, since 1959, when His Holiness the Dalai Lama crossed over in Zemintang area of Tawang, north of Tawang. Since then, the Tibetans have been with India. And inside Tibet, they can't speak much, but I think they will get the message of what has happened in Spango Gap.
Very, very significant historical context from one of the world's leading Tibetologists. Thank you very much, Claude Arpi, for joining us with your thoughts. Deeply appreciate